Good morning. Welcome to Georgetown. Georgetown University, our nation's oldest Catholic university, a Jesuit school on the hilltop in the Georgetown neighborhood of Washington, D.C., in northwest Washington, D.C. We're going to go for a long walk down through the neighborhoods. This is live. How are you? You are amazing. Yes, it is amazing to be on the other side of the world watching someone talking to you. Yeah, you're on the campus of Georgetown, and we're going to walk from here over to the White House. Good morning. This is the administration building of the school, and then there's some dorms over here. The library's over there. This is the main entrance where everybody gets their Ubers. Let's walk over towards the library. And then we're going to walk. I'll tell you what, let's walk down the Exorcist steps. You guys want to walk down the Exorcist steps where they filmed the movie The Exorcist? That was filmed here on the campus of Georgetown. It was written by a Georgetown alum based on an old wives' tale that was told in the darkened halls of Georgetown University in the 60s. What am I going to eat today? You know, good question. I'm not sure. I've got a kind of busy day today. I got to take a computer back to the Apple shop for repairs. And a few other tidbits. Let's see what that was. My Apple Watch is beeping. It's a pretty gorgeous day today. It's a little chilly right now. It's about 9 Celsius. That's in the 50s, but it's going up to the high 60s, low 70s today. No clouds, no rain. Pretty much a perfect day. Baseball comes tomorrow. Game 3 of the World Series arrives in Washington tomorrow. The Nationals have a 2-game lead following the absolute destruction. Have we lost our signal? Shoot. Dang it, we got the spiral of death. Hang on a second. Yep, we're in a death spiral. We're going to end. Okay, let's try that again. So, we lost our signal there for a moment, but we're back now, leaving the campus of Georgetown and heading down the streets of this neighborhood on our way to the White House, which is about 20 blocks away, which is probably about a mile and a half. Yeah, I don't know what happened. We just lost the signal up there on the campus. Too many kids waking up and turning their phones on, I think. Up here on the right is a famous bar known as the Tombs. The Tombs is a Georgetown institution. It's been around, about 50 years now. And it is the bar, the Tombs is what St. Elmo's Fire was based upon. So the movie St. Elmo's Fire was based on the Tombs. If you've ever seen that movie with the Brat Pack of the 80s, Demi Moore, Ali Sheedy, Judd Nelson, Rob Lowe, all the 80 stars. Now, right over here, 3600 Prospect. I'm not sure what I'm going to eat today. This is the house where they filmed the movie The Exorcist. So if you've ever seen the movie The Exorcist, this is the house where the little girl lived in. And not too much of a spoiler, but right behind the house are the famous Exorcist steps. Now, if you've seen the movie, you know why the steps are important. The house is right there, and the steps are back here. So that's the Exorcist steps. They're very famous if you see the movie. But we're going to walk through the neighborhood because it's pretty. So let's go up to N as in Nancy Street. Actually, I walked on N the other day. Let's go this one. The very skinny steps there are a real bear to go up. You can see that guy who came up was just absolutely dead from climbing those steps. Hey, Bangor. Welcome back. So we're going to walk through the streets of Georgetown now. In fact, I'm going to go on the other side of the street so you guys don't get that sun flare looking into the sun. I'm no longer in Asia. Yeah, well, for a bit. So we were in Hong Kong for 9 years, and now we're on year 2 of a 2-year assignment back in the United States. And we're not really sure what comes after that. Whether we stay here until our kids finish their high school, or if we go back to Asia, back to Hong Kong, maybe Singapore, maybe Bangkok, maybe Vienna, I don't know, who knows? Maybe South Africa. A lot of different options on the table in the next year. We have to decide what's best for the kids, what's best for us. Now, if any of you guys have gone to school in the United States, there is a chance you applied for financial aid and were given what is known as a Pell Grant, P-E-L-L, a Pell Grant. Pell Grants were named after Senator Clarence Pell, the man who pushed through the legislation to give financial aid to kids. And this is where Clarence Pell lived. That was Senator Pell's house. We work internationally. Hello, guys. So if you've ever had a Pell Grant, that house right there had a major role in your college success. So we're going to walk down to a very famous place in Georgetown, at least if you watch reality TV, Georgetown Cupcake. Yeah. So the Learning Channel has a show called Georgetown Cupcake, which chronicles the life of a cupcake bakery. It is a famous cupcake bakery filled to the brims with tourists every single day, mainly because it has its own reality show. And it's just down here. But I wanted to point something out. As a guy who doesn't like to shave very often, I relate very well to the houses on the other side of the street. Can you tell why? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things, 3 of these things are kind of the same. Can you tell which one is doing his own thing? Whatever. I can't even remember the words to that song. Yeah, well, that's the Vineyard House, yeah? So all these houses here are nice and clean shaven, and then that one there is a mess. Believe it or not, Georgetown Prep is not actually in Georgetown. In fact, it's about 10 miles from here, up in the Rockville, a city called Rockville. Don't go back to Rockville, if you ever know the REM song. So Georgetown Prep is not on the campus. Georgetown Visitation, which is an all-girls school, is next to the Georgetown University campus. But Georgetown Prep, the alma mater of 2 U.S. Supreme Court justices, is in Rockville. So we're going to cross the street here. This is the Ukrainian embassy right over here. Yeah, the No Shave House. Dollar Shave Club, House Edition. Now, right over there is Francis Scott Key Park, because Francis Scott Key, the author of the Star-Spangled Banner, used to have a house right there. It was torn down to make the Key Bridge, named again after Francis Scott Key. Now, this house over here, though, is known as the Marbury House. Now, if any of you guys have studied U.S. legal cases or the U.S. Supreme Court, you may have heard of a court case called Marbury versus Madison. Marbury versus Madison was the first Supreme Court case to give the Supreme Court jurisdiction over the actions of the Congress and the President. This is where Forrest Marbury lived. This is the famous case, Marbury, of the legal case Marbury versus Madison. In 1803, through this case, the United Supreme Court established its right of judicial review of congressional actions. Marbury versus Madison. Every Supreme Court case that you've heard since that time owes its existence to this man here who sued Madison over a criminal case. I wish we had some good fish and chips here. I would really like that. But today, I don't know what's for lunch. I have a 12:30 Apple Genius Bar appointment. So it'll probably be having lunch down in this neighborhood. The Apple store is down here in Georgetown. But I'm not sure what it'll be. It might be Korean. There is an Irish fish and chip place, but I don't really know if I could go for... I kind of should eat healthier today. I'm eating crap all week. You know, they're cleanish. I mean, it's not like there's standing trash. But Georgetown has a huge problem with rats. So, I mean, if you go back in the alleys, you're pretty much guaranteed to see rats or evidence of rats, which is kind of annoying. Because, I mean, this is the kind of place where you go to buy like a fancy bathroom, shower, kitchenware. Now, right over there, guys, that is Georgetown Cupcake. That's Georgetown Cupcake. Yeah, it's early in the morning. It's only 9 o'clock. In fact, the roads are still on rush hour mode, meaning that a lot of commuters are still coming into the city. There's no parking right now, so people can't really get out. So that's Georgetown Cupcake, that white place. Like I said, if you watch the Learning Channel show, Georgetown Cupcake, you're familiar with that place. Let's go to the canal. This is M as in Mary Street. We are in the heart of Georgetown right now. We're continuing on our movie tour. How many of you guys saw the movie True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Yeah? If you remember the movie True Lies, there was a scene where they were chasing a bad guy. They parked their car and walked across the street into a shopping mall, into a bathroom. And then Arnold and some dude who had muscles as big as Arnold had this massive brawl in a bathroom before Arnold came and jumped out a window. That was filmed right here on the street. So Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Arnold parked their car on that side of the street. They ran across the street and then into this now defunct shopping mall. Yeah, the horse is getting tired. That's actually a really fun movie, True Lies. And then later, Arnold came smashing out of one of these glass windows. So the White House is a little bit out of the way from Georgetown, but you have to remember, I walk about 10 to 14 miles a day. So for me, it's not that far. It's going to take us about 20, maybe 30 minutes to get there from where we are right now. We're at about 32nd Street, and the White House is at 16th Street. So we've got about 16 blocks to go. There's Key Bridge over there. So let's go down to the canal. Canal's pretty. We'll walk along the water. Oh, there's not much water right now. So the canal's under repair right now. So the pristine, beautiful water is not there right now. It's filled with weeds right now. Morning, Charlotte. I have a stepsister in Charlotte, I think. Ugh, there's a dead rat. Ugh. I hate rats. So this is the old Cumberland and Ohio Canal. There's ducks. Quack, 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 quack. And due to a bridge repair up ahead, the canal is kind of weeded over right now because the water levels have been dropped out, put back in, dropped out, put back in. It's a bit crazy. We are in Washington, D.C. This is Georgetown. In fact, there's a scene from the movie No Way Out. It was filmed right here. Kevin Costner is being chased by a Department of Defense assassination team, and he jumps out of his car and he runs down to this towpath. He runs along this path and he cuts in right there to the Georgetown metro station. Now it's kind of a funny joke because there is no Georgetown metro station, and Georgetown does not have a subway. He then ran inside and slid down the escalator, and lo and behold, he got on a subway train in Baltimore because the DC subway system would not allow him to film a violent scene inside the DC Metro. So, excuse me. So, this served as the Georgetown Metro for the movie No Way Out. Also, St. Elmo's Fire had a scene or two filmed along the towpath where Ali Sheedy was walking with her friend, talking about Demi Moore's character. Now we got this bridge that's getting repaired, so there's a cofferdam up here that's kind of messed up the water, but after that it should be back to a normal canal with some locks functioning and everything. Hey, welcome to Periscope, Finis Core. You're in Washington, D.C. in the Georgetown neighborhood as we make our way across Northwest D.C. to the White House. The White House is at 16th and Pennsylvania Avenue. Right now I'm at about 31st and ostensibly Pennsylvania Avenue. So 15 blocks to go. You can count it down with me. We'll see how long this takes. Hi. So this is the Cumberland and Ohio Canal. This used to be the main interstate for Pennsylvania agricultural products and West Virginia agricultures to make their way down to the port of Georgetown, and from the port of Georgetown over to England. Georgetown was a major tobacco port, major agriculture port. I think, though, they also might have had some slaves come through Georgetown as well. It's been a big controversy at Georgetown University. It was discovered recently that the founders of Georgetown University financed the construction of the original buildings by selling slaves. Slaves were considered property back then, and they were gifted to the school. So they sold them, used the money to help build the campus. So here we are on 31st Street. A bunch of restaurants I'd never eat at because they're too trendy, and I'm not. I am not trendy. So I'm wearing an army jacket, 4-year-old pair of tennis shoes, and a 5-year-old pair of pants right now. But now we're past this cofferdam, we can get back to the canal action. So that's their water system. Canal lock doors are open to let the water come through. The canal boat is out of service right now. Now, back in the day, in the 50s, there was talk of bulldozing this canal and turning it into a big parkway with high-speed cars racing back and forth through the city. Now, from a traffic standpoint, that would have been great. But from a quality of life standpoint, it would have sucked for this area. So one man decided he was going to fight the power. Interestingly enough, he was the power. He was Justice Stephen Douglas of the U.S. Supreme Court and a resident of Georgetown. And he was one of the vocal opponents of building a parkway over this canal. Given his stature, given the neighborhood opposition, the parkway was never built and the canal was saved. In honor of the efforts of Mr. Douglas, or William Douglas, not Stephen Douglas, he was put here in memorial. Justice William Douglas. Foamy. here you see a rental car. These are very common in Washington, D.C. These are grab-and-go rental cars. This car here, I can scan my phone over the door lock, and it will open, and the key will pop out, and then I can drive the car for about 40 cents a minute, and then when I'm done, I can park it anywhere, and I just go. So those are like on-call rental cars, and those are all over the city, just like electric scooters and electric and bicycle rentals. Drive and drops. Makes it quite convenient. Yeah, I like the scooters. Not a lot of people out right now. It's early in the day. There are little fish. There are a few fish. Someone was asking in French, I think, about the fish. There are some fish in there, not many. I did used to live in Hong Kong. I'm temporarily living in the United States for about 2 years, after which time we'll reassess our life. The kids really like their school here. They're doing very well. Their school is basically an Ivy League feeder school. So moving back to Hong Kong would be a pretty major alteration of their university plans. So we have to kind of figure out what we're going to do about that. If it was just me or just the wife, we'd probably still be in Asia. But, when you got kids, everything's about them. My youngest will graduate high school in 7 years. That's really daunting when I think about it that way. But in 3 years, I could put him in boarding school. Not that I'd want to do that. No, most of the people that we know in Hong Kong have a wait-and-see attitude. While there's not been a lot of new people going into Hong Kong, whether or not older companies retrench, that'll be decided in December, like Christmas time. Then they'll decide if they're going to close their offices. Now, I do know a lot of money left Hong Kong. There has been a lot of cash moved to Singapore. Singapore considered more of a safe haven right now. Well, you understand that the protests aren't really affecting the expat finance community. It's affecting the retail and tourism sector, but the large-scale banking divisions and stuff, I mean, yeah, occasionally, they can't get to work because they're getting tear gas, but by and large, money is still being smuggled out of China and other stuff. There's still demand for international financial products. Alrighty, so we're making progress now. We're at about 29th Street, 28th Street. This is Rock Creek Parkway. This is one way inbound, but that's ending, so all the cars are having to merge into 2 lanes right now. They're not too thrilled about that, especially if you're one of the guys getting squeezed. All right, next stop, heading to the White House, but maybe we'll cut through George Washington University on the way. There's a few cool things to see over there. So, could have a pizza. What should I eat for lunch today? I could go to the Tombs. I haven't been to the Tombs in a couple months. I need to buy a new coat. That's also on my agenda. I'm waiting kind of for winter. I want to buy a new Barber jacket. Oh, there's another one of those drive and drop cars. So that thing there is 40 cents a minute. I can just scan it and drive off. In fact, maybe we'll do that on the way home. The Tombs is a bar in Georgetown. We showed that earlier. That's where St. Elmo's Fire was based. It's actually not a bad bar food. It's a rowing pub. So the theme is rowing and crew. Oof. All right, where are we at? 26th Street. 26. Hey, 10 more blocks, guys. Only 10 more blocks to the White House. It'll go pretty quickly. It won't be like 10 minutes. It'll be more than that. So this is 25th Street. When we get to about 23rd Street, then we enter the campus of George Washington University, GW, which has a very, very good medical school and a good American political government school. I think they have an engineering program too.
That makes sense, it's my birthday.
That was a tourist family struggling to remember the combination of their suitcases. They're like, what's her birthday? Okay. And away we go. No homeless people. Oh yes, there are many, 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 many homeless people in Washington, D.C. We just haven't encountered any yet. But because I walked down the canal instead of M Street, we missed about a dozen. They don't hang out on the canal. They hang out on M Street. In fact, there's 3 over in that park right now. There'll be some more in this park up ahead. Yeah, there's a rather large homeless / mentally ill / substance abuse population on the streets of Washington, D.C. No, well, visiting in what sense? I mean, we're here for 2 years. Well, we've been here for 1 already. We're here for another year. Then we have to decide where we're going to stay. Are we going to stay in D.C.? Are we going to go back to Hong Kong, Singapore, whatever? I don't know. But it's going to come down to the kids, really, how the kids are doing. Hillwood. Sounds familiar. The kids prefer Hong Kong? It's complicated. From a food standpoint, they prefer Hong Kong. Their friends, it's kind of a push. They have a lot of friends here and they have a lot of friends in Hong Kong. I should note, though, that as kids get older in Hong Kong, they generally leave for boarding school. So we're not sure how many of their friends would remain in Hong Kong. In fact, of my youngest, his closest 3 friends, 1 is left, 1 is thinking of leaving, and the other will stay in Hong Kong. And my older one, of his 5 closest friends, one has left, one is leaving next year, one is thinking of leaving, two are thinking of leaving, and one is going to stay in Hong Kong. So it's really a push on the friend front. On the schools here are better than the schools in Hong Kong. The school they go to is better than the one in Hong Kong. That's pretty safe. The quality of life, our quality of life in Hong Kong was better than it is here. Just our day-to-day living experience was far and away better in Hong Kong than it is here. So you see, we got a lot of stuff to decide. A lot of factors. I think my kids have said it best. Dad, I wish we never left Hong Kong, but since we did, I don't want to go back. So yeah, this is George Washington Hospital. This is the university's hospital. Now, it used to be in that building over there, and that building was famous because you saw President Reagan arrive there after he was shot. His ambulance pulled into the emergency room there at GW Hospital, which was right there. Now, lawyers, they moved the hospital to this side of the street. To the State Department. This is one of the Maryland commuter buses coming in from the outer suburbs. Morning. So we're stuck at a red light. Apple Watch is going to say, why aren't you exercising if I stay here any longer? Maybe I can fake, here we go. Go green. There we go. God, we only got 15 seconds to cross. You can tell by the short pedestrian lights who is the priority, cars or people. All right, we're mobile again. Woohoo! So we're on the campus of George Washington and also on the campus of the World Bank. The World Bank and its assorted institutions populate the streets over the next few blocks. So we'll be seeing lots of World Bank busy. The World Bank just had their annual meeting last week, so it was a bit crazy here. See you another time. So that's the IFC, the International Finance Corporation. That is the World Bank's venture capital arm, basically. And over here are a bunch of law firms. Oh. Oh, well, we got a road closed up here. So this, I think, is the IMF, one of the IMF's buildings, International Monetary Fund, and they're renovating. They like gutted it down to the studs, basically. That's interesting. They just used old shipping containers as scaffolding to protect pedestrians. There's so many old shipping containers out there. Probably have more cost-effective than building. Probably a lot easier to build. They just basically ram shipping containers together. Cool. White House just up ahead, guys. We're at 21st Street. 6 more blocks until we get to the White House. 6 more blocks. 5 more blocks, actually. White House is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Northwest. That's the quadrant we're in right now. Northwest quadrant. Go, go, go. Okay, so coming up on the left is the Mexican Embassy. This doesn't seem right. I did. I'm not no, the Mexican, well, they have, the Mexican ambassador's residence is on Embassy Row, but the Mexican embassy is down here, very close to the White House. There are a few like that. The Canadian embassy is very close to the Capitol. The Australian embassy is down here. Some of the smaller countries that just rent like an office space are located down here. So this is George Washington University back there. It is a gorgeous day. It's going to be a gorgeous day. Right now it's a little chilly. I woke up this morning, it was 8 Celsius. That's like 50s. But they say it's going up into the mid-60s to the low 70s. It's going to be clear skies, dry, not too humid. Nationals are up 2-0. Yeah, they won last night. Big, 12-something, 12-3 or something. I don't know the score. This is a waterfall, in case you're wondering why the screen's doing weird things. And this is, I believe, the IMF. 12-2. It was 2-2 when I went to bed. I passed out last night. I don't know what happened to me. International Monetary Fund. No, the Australian Embassy is going to be a couple-year project, actually. The Australian Embassy has moved to the National Geographic Building. And they took over 4 floors of the National Geographic Building, which is just across the street from the Australian Embassy. and they're operating out of there. There's a new Australian ambassador due in January, I believe. As the current ambassador will finish his 4-year term. I know a lot about the Australian ambassador because his son and my son are good friends. They go to school together and they hang out a lot. So that's the only reason I know about all that. Yep. So this is the World Bank headquarters right here. And this is probably one of the best cafeterias in DC. The World Bank staff cafeteria serves food from all over the world made by authentic chefs, and all the World Bank staff are always hit up by their friends. It's like, oh, can you take me to your cafeteria? Can you take me to the cafeteria? So if you know anyone who works at the World Bank, it is a good score. I'm told they have a new Chinese chef. The old chef from the Chinese embassy has moved over to the World Bank, and now like the Chinese staff are going crazy. You pay for a portion of that. The World Bank is financed on a pro rata basis, all countries contributing based on their economies. So the United States contributes, I think, somewhere between 14 and 17%, and then other countries do as well. The World Bank is kind of an independent organization, a non-governmental organization financed by governments. There is a board of directors appointed on a basis relative to their earnings power. You know, the United States, being the largest economy, has the largest number of votes. Then Japan usually backs the U.S. So there's sort of some unwritten rules. The president of the World Bank is always an American, and the president of the IMF is always a European. Then the Japanese have some position in one bank or something like that. A lot of cars today. Yeah, rush hour's still not over. That was just a random man on the street interview. We'll see a lot of media presence in a block or two as we get to the White House. This is the World Bank bookstore. It's actually kind of a cool bookstore. Or they call it visitor center now. But you can buy all sorts of interesting books. And let's keep going now. Down to the White House grounds. We're almost there, guys. 1 block away. Thanks for watching a whole hike. It's been quite a hike. Not sure how I'm going to get home. I may scooter home. I got to check how many steps I've had. I don't know where Trump is today. Last night, when I was at soccer practice last night with my kid, I saw 3 presidential helicopters descend on the White House. So I wasn't sure if Trump was coming back from some trip or if he was heading out on some trip. But we saw Marine One and its 2 escort helicopters making their way up the Potomac and coming in for a landing at the White House. This week I've been over 20,000 a day, 20 to 25,000 a day, which is okay for America. It wasn't that good for Hong Kong. Hong Kong I was doing 30,000 a day easily, sometimes 40. But here in America, you take what you can get, yeah? I don't know when the G7 is. That's in a while. That's like next year. We just finished the G7 a couple months ago. And so the next one isn't until next year. That's why all the flubub has been going on about the arrangements for next year. Yeah, I walk about 10 to 15 miles a day. My record was 22 miles, or 24 miles, I think. Here's a protester. No idea what his sign says, because I don't care. Guys, we're about to enter the White House grounds. We don't get killed. Always. a real possibility. This is the Eisenhower Executive Building. Most of the president's staff are actually ensconced in this building. It used to be known as the old executive office building. Why the White House? Because it's painted white. It was originally a sandstone color, but then the British came and burned it. They torched the White House, so they repainted over the burn marks with white paint, and it became known as the White House. Over there is Blair House. That yellow house there is known as Blair House. That is the official guest residence of the United States. When a foreign head of state visits Washington, D.C. for a state visit, they are allowed to live there. Yeah, in fact, you can in the third floor residential area, they left a part unpainted. So the president, you can still see the burn marks. In fact, anytime a British prime minister comes over, that's kind of like on the $5 tour. Hey, look at this. You guys did this, assholes. So they always make it a point to show the burn marks to the British prime minister whenever they come over. Kind of like, hey, see, you burned our White House, our diplomats are going to run over your kids. For those who are following what's going on in England, an American diplomat ran over a kid, killed them, and then left the country. Actually, it was the diplomat's wife. So there's a huge controversy. Now, what's going on right now is a new fence is being put in. The old fence was 8 feet high. The new fence is going to be 12 feet high. It's a very ugly, ugly situation. It's very sad. And there's no real resolution yet. So that's the new fence. It was the diplomat's wife. In fact, there's even a debate whether they technically had diplomatic status at the time it took place. But the two countries are in a delicate negotiation, made less delicate by the British tabloids. Yeah, she left England before she was arrested, which is pretty much par for the course. Most diplomats do that. If they do a crime, they get out in time. It's really a shame because with the fence under repair, we can't get any closer right now. Normally we could walk up to the other side. Did they get her? No. Why is there a fence? Because, as a Secret Service agent once told me, God sends a lot of people to talk to the president. There are a lot of people that like to run onto the White House grounds screaming, whatever, protect the Kurds, First Amendment, no nukes, no war, women's rights, impeach the president, hip-hop for all, clean, honest government, and tour groups from all parts. So it's a combination of crazy tourist stuff. And there you go, guys. There's the White House. Let's go over the middle. Okay, guys. Like I promised, I brought you to the White House. And now, is there riot control nearby just in case? The Secret Service has what's known as the counter-assault unit. And they're hidden in the Treasury building or in the building. They're the counter-assault. I mean, there's police everywhere. But if there is an assault, then counter-assault takes them out. As far as large-scale riots, though, that would be the DC police or the military police. They're going to make it taller, yeah. Build that wall. They are building that wall. Kind of ugly. Kind of ugly. The old fence was nicer. So, anyway, guys, I'm going to sign off now. Morning. So we've brought you to the White House. It's now time for me to make my way back home. Probably on a scooter. Stuck at the DC riots, 68 were pretty crazy. Thanks for watching. Check me out on YouTube, Penguin6, Instagram, and Facebook, Penguin6. I've got a new video vlog coming out later today on YouTube. I'll talk to you all then.